Welcome to Cyber Chats, a podcast made by the National Cryptologic Foundation. I'm your host, Kennedy Taylor, and together we'll be demystifying the world of cybersecurity by talking with amazing cyber enthusiasts like you, as well as industry professionals. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform.
You want to share how you got me started in electronics?
Right. So it actually started with a science fair project, which we'll get to later. But I introduced her to Scratch and electronics. And using Scratch just as a programming tool is okay. But kids' light bulbs really go off when you hook it up to hardware. So when they make a routine run and the light blinks on and off, it's a much deeper connection to programming than just, scratch the cat walked across the screen. Big deal. Okay, yeah. So what? So
that was about kindergarten.
Yeah, that was kindergarten, and we ran a series of programming classes at her school too for fun. What's next? Here it is, the Polly Pocket House. So her first science fair was, I believe this is kindergarten or first grade, and there's no reason you have to limit your children. All right. Most parents would be like, ooh, soldering, that's dangerous. She did not burn herself. She did 120 soldering joints on this Polly Pocket House. It was solar powered and the lights all blinked and it had batteries. So if the sun was down, you could still party, yeah?
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with that naturally, especially since most of the other little kids that age did like dioramas of fish. I wanted to do something a little extra. However, what pissed me off a lot was there was another boy in an older grade. He was actually in third grade at the time that I was in kindergarten or first grade, and he won first place. What he did is very similar to my project, but 10 million times dumbed down. It was one light bulb connected to one solar panel compared to my millions of LEDs connected to multiple solar panels and a battery that works at night. And his project was if you blocked the light from the solar panel, the light in the house turns off. But if you let light on the solar panel, the lights turn on. Guess who won first place and who didn't get a prize? He won first place, I didn't get a prize. So that's where my bitterness started.
Yes, women in tech from the beginning. So her project would work at night, his didn't, and I unfortunately was at a conference and could not go tell the school that they were
and I was too young to stand up for myself. I didn't even know I could at that age.
So opportunities, you always want to find opportunities for your kid, and one reason that Bia's in tech is because when she was very small, I wanted something that the two of us could have together, because what happens to teenagers, daughters, and their dads, they usually separate at that age. So I was taking her to conferences, and lo and behold, we rolled into the HOPE conference, which is Hackers on Planet Earth, one of the oldest hacker conferences. Also, the second talk Bia gave in her life was at HOPE. And we ran into this gentleman here, Sebastian, doing some biohacking stuff. Fun side note, he's Romanian, so is my daughter, half Romanian. And they together built a project studying Oxalis stricta, which is a plant, weed as you know it. And she did a whole study on that. The funny thing is, when we went to the school and said, hey, we've got this amazing opportunity for her to work with the real scientist who's going to do the same project in his lab so we can compare notes, the school said, well, you're still going to have to submit 3 different things. Meh. So
I submitted that talk and 2 things that I knew were going to get rejected. So my one thing I wanted to get accepted was accepted. And the reason why I picked this project specifically with Sebastian, even at such a young age, is because I wanted to create an impact. And Oxalis stricta, which is a weed that's commonly confused with a clover, has oxalic acid. What causes kidney stones? Oxalic acid. So by studying the mannerisms of this plant and things that contain this in it, you can better learn how to prevent or get rid of kidney stones. So I thought that would be really interesting. And the next year.
Oh, yep. Oh, yeah. And she got first place, by the way, that year. And we're back again next year. The WaterBot. So doing her Oxalis project, she realized that she had to put a specific amount of liquid into each one of these sets of plants. So she said, Dad, there's got to be an easier way. And I said, why don't you do that for your science project next year? So she invented the water bot.
And what the water bot does is it dispenses a particular amount of liquid to every single one of the plants during your science experiment. Not too much and not too little, because with plants you have to be precise, especially you can't really restart. And by using a peristaltic pump, which is the same kind of pump they use during open heart surgery, you can do that very easily. And I also won first place again. Eat my dust, people. Yeah. And then as Dad started to take me to more conferences, this, besides Delaware, was my first ever conference that I did a presentation at. And I actually did my ciphers and codes class. Yeah, 2017. You can see me. I was very tiny, just reaching over. This talk was actually adapted, and I taught this class last Cyber Saturday, so that was kind of fun. And at the same exact conference, I won my first laptop in a CTF against parents, and other adults. So I thought that was pretty cool. What I discovered early on is I'm like my dad because I learn the best from teaching. If I teach something, it solidifies in my brain, and I can think about other questions that my students might have and think about those questions differently and how would I answer them and what's the true answer behind it.
All right. So, what do you do with your young teenage or the preteen daughter? You bring them to DEF CON, and parents, if you're thinking about DEF CON, just bring them to DEF CON. She'll talk more later, but she runs the youth track at DEF CON. Last year we had over 300 kids. Totally worth it. Make a family vacation out of it. At this particular DEF CON, she did 3 talks. She did one on the youth track, one in the biohacking village, and one in the voting village. And just so you know, when you submit a talk to DEF CON, they obfuscate your name, your age, and all that stuff. So all of her talks were picked up based on the fact that they were actually good. So pretty awesome.
Yeah, and DEF CON, if you don't know what DEF CON is, it's one of the world's largest hacker conferences, seeing over 40,000 hackers a year in Vegas. It is one of the most top-tier exclusive style conferences, especially to speak at. And I was lucky enough to speak at such a young age. I was so short, then I had to stand on a pelican case so people could see me.
That was hilarious. And also, she made this headband with Adafruit stuff. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Hack the reporting system.
Yeah. I'm a big advocate for youth being in spaces that aren't really designed for them. And one of those is the election/voting space. A lot of the times kids and even teenagers will say, that's just something the adults talk about and argue over at the Thanksgiving table. However, it is such an important subject to teach early on, especially when it comes to voting security. When I was younger, they held in the Roots Asylum, so the youth track at DEF CON, a mock election reporting system that us kids got to hack and change the vote count. At that time, I barely had any computer experience, and in under 15 minutes, I was able to do that. And naturally, this got media attention from BBC, The New Yorker, a bunch of other news sites. And then Congresswoman Mickey Sherrill of New Jersey invited me to go to a congressional hearing on election security. This is where I met all the congressmen and women of the United States at that time. I got to talk to them about their thoughts and feelings when it came to cybersecurity and more specifically election security. And they had some thoughts and feelings that were very much not cybersecurity safe practices. And by seeing how uneducated they were on these topics, I thought to myself, I can make a better, more secure election system. So that's exactly what I did. And I made Secure Open Vote, my own end-to-end secure open source election system, just to prove you can make a secure system by keeping it bare bones and having a paper trail. I then brought this Secure Open Vote to a few different conferences, had some of the best hackers try to hack and change the vote count and do different things to it. No one was able to hack it. So,
Yeah, we did that for DEF CON, and we also did for DEF Camp in Romania. And nobody could change the vote count on our system. So if we went back to the slide with the kids and you could see it closer, the kids had SQL injected Bob the Builder with all the votes. So he won. He is our new president. All right. All right, there you go. Oh, yeah. So start them young. Don't overstep. So we were at the old Roots Asylum at DEF CON, and there was a parent there with his daughter, and I was there with Bia. Bia was sitting in the chair in front of the computer, and occasionally she'd get stuck doing a CTF, and she'd say, Dad, what do I do here? And I'd kind of teach her a little and step back. And the kid next to her, the daughter was playing on her phone and the dad did the whole CTF. Guess who won the CTF? And guess who got second place?
Yeah, that little girl. And they made her go up on stage because this was the youth kids CTF that the dad was doing everything for her. She wasn't learning anything. She went up on stage and had to go get the prize. And the poor thing was shaking because she knew she didn't actually win it. But the dad was so proud clapping for her. And I'm like, don't overstep. If your kid's having a conversation with someone, just step back and let them talk to that adult. Let them figure it out.
Yeah, and same thing. If you're bringing your kids to conferences and they have questions, let the kid ask the adult the question and take a big step back. Distance yourself from the child, because otherwise, inevitably, they will start talking to the middle-aged white man.
Which is true. Even now, I'm 19 and I have all these accomplishments. When I'm talking about my business that I started and my dad is standing next to me, they will ask him questions, even though I'm the one responding constantly. So by putting that distance between you and your child becomes the one that they are actually talking to. Not to mention, that brings us to injustices. It's a good time to talk about injustices with your kids, especially if you're part of any kind of minority group. And being young is a minority group. You get underestimated and people think you're unqualified just because you're younger. And though that sometimes means you have less experience, I started in this field when I was about 10, 11-ish years old, meaning now I have about 8 or 9 years of experience in cybersecurity, which is
That's a lot of adults.
So,
And also, if your kid takes an interest in something, go ahead and throw some money at it. Make sure they're really interested in it. Like, oh, my kid's really kind of interested in this soldering thing. Great, buy them the soldering stuff, get them the things, and encourage them to build things. We all love building. It's part of being human. And kind of push them a little bit if they're like, screw this. No, give it another shot, but don't over push, because if Bob doesn't want to play with Legos, he's not going to play with Legos.
Yeah, and my whole thing with the try everything you think you won't like or think you can't do is that cybersecurity is such a vast field. If you try one thing in cybersecurity, whether it be just like one CTF or one lock picking class or whatever it is, and you're like, I don't get it, this is boring. Maybe it's the teacher, maybe it's the environment, maybe it's just the way you were taught it or the resources you were given. Try the same thing again, but with a different routine behind it, and you might find that you actually do like it.
Okay, so this goes back to the homeschooling thing. So like I said before, we put her in an affordable private school, which I strongly suggest, because that allows you to do things like realize that your kid already knows everything for this grade. And you can go, can we just move her up one grade? And they'll say, you're paying me, sure. So we ended up bumping Bia up over her career 2 grades. So she graduated high school at 16. She was ready to graduate at 15, but state laws suck. So she got her high school diploma, and it allowed her to go to conferences with me. It allowed her to, this is her at a Cisco class. So there's a Cisco hacking class. Guess who hacked all the stuff faster than everybody else in the class? This one. So she was hitting the flags before everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah, I personally really liked being homeschooled. And I know there's a lot of apprehension and sort of confusion behind that, but there's so many resources out there. Sometimes it's pre-made programs. The way that I did it is I'm very much a disciplined, grinding kind of person. That's just who I am. I opened the high school equivalency test book, so like an SAT test book or GED textbook. I saw everything you need to know in order to pass the test. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to learn every single one of these things. Once I know all these things, I'm going to take the test. And then I did, and I passed. And now I'm currently doing college online because I travel so much for work and I do stuff like this. And it gives me that flexibility to still get my cybersecurity degree, keep my 4.0 up, and not be stuck in classes where I'm bored because the teachers aren't going at the pace that I learned, which is very fast.
Yes. And for those of you paying attention, she reverse engineered the GED tests in order to pass it. So there you go. Okay. Provide and find resources. Go.
This is you.
Oh, this is me. Okay. We've never rehearsed this, by the way. So it's, as the parent, it's up to you to find good resources for your kid, because you know your kid better than your kid knows your kid. And so you can look for things that really kind of go into their kind of way of learning. Is your kid more hands-on? Then maybe you want to do like the hands-on coding stuff, or if they're more, I'm good with like video games and things like that, I want to make video games, get them Unity, because Unity is amazing. They can learn C coding, they can learn, graphics, all those things, and it's very affordable. And there's a purple question here, which you guys could write down.
Like, what resources can I provide and what resources do I need? So you guys already made a great big step today, whether it was you guys prompting it to your parents or your parents prompting it to you and coming to this. There are so many free to affordable events and resources out there. And as high schoolers, we already have a lot on our plates, and it does feel a lot because we're not used to doing this much. It's our first time doing a lot. So if you parents can take time to just find resources and just give them to us, that would be great. Like, I speak a lot, and I'll talk about it later, at hundreds of conferences around the world. Trying to find those conferences and applying to them is tedious. So my mom does that for me a lot of the time. She'll just send me links to a bunch of conferences she thinks are interesting and up my alley. I'll look further into them and apply.
Ooh, personal branding. She's going to talk about this, but I'd like to point out that the same photographer friend of ours took all of these photos.
Yeah, so my dad saw something in me at a young age. I work in cybersecurity. I love cybersecurity, but I'm extroverted. Big surprise to everyone. Even though most people in this field are introverted. And I wanted to become sort of the middle ground between the not really extroverted people and the extroverted people who aren't really cyber savvy. So right in the middle there. And to do that, I created a personal brand for myself. For example, my hacker handle is BiaSciLab for Bianca Science Laboratory. Since I love science and it fits well on a cute little sticker. And I told my dad I wanted to start social media, do all these things, because the world is creepy. My dad ran my social media account until I was old enough to run it myself. And he found a way to make it happen. I went to his work, and his work has a whole studio for filming stuff and taking photos. We got one of those good quality photos from one of his coworkers, and that's how I got my first headshot. We put together some business cards, and we made something out of me even when I was at such a young age. And I've just continued that with my brand going on till my most recent photo, which is that one.
And we need new photos.
Yeah.
We got to go see Gabby. All right. Yes. So do you want to do this one?
You can do this.
Right. Oh, yeah. So my company has a really, really awesome women's military initiatives and all these things. And they brought, for the women's initiative, they brought in Rashma Sawajani, who started Girls Who Code. So Bianca came to the event with me, and during the event, or after the event, she said, why isn't there Girls Who Hack? I'm going to start Girls Who Hack. So I pulled out my phone and I looked up girlswhohack.com, and it's available. Buy. Best money I ever spent. So their motto is teaching girls the skills of hacking so that they can change the future. And Bianca?
Yeah. So I started Girls Who Hack mostly because I didn't have a good community of just girls specifically studying cybersecurity. There are great programs out there for coding and robotics, but none for hacking specifically with girls. When you're the only girl in a room or one of the few, you sort of get that whole I have to prove myself thing that guys don't have to deal with. Because not only are you representing you, you're representing all women. And if you don't understand something, or if you quote unquote look stupid, then you're just proving the thing that women don't belong in tech. So there's all that pressure. But it's just women in the room. We can just talk trash on boys and lift each other up. And it's been pretty great.
The talking trash on boys is awesome.
Mm-hmm. My trick with that is to find gaps in your dream industry, and this is for all of you and even you adults. If you want to work in cybersecurity, look for the gaps. Look for things that don't quite exist yet and make that exist. Look for the kind of person that doesn't really exist yet. Be that person. Look for the brand or the influencer that doesn't exist yet and create that. There's so many little gaps everywhere, or different branches you can create, and that's a great way to sort of start in this field. Girls Who Hack has been doing pretty darn well. I started it when I was about 14 years old, almost 15. I'm 19 now, do the math. And since I began Girls Who Hack, I have taught well over 1,000 girls around the world cybersecurity skills. Everything from here in the US to Europe, Africa, and we're trying to just expand everywhere, wherever possible. The best advice is from Nike, and that's just do it. Sometimes we procrastinate because we do have logical reasoning behind why we shouldn't or don't want to do something. I'm busy with school right now. It's not a good time because of this. I don't have all the resources yet. I'm going to get those first. Just doing it is the biggest first step that gets you out there and really motivates you to keep going. You can logic your way out of everything. It's time to start logic your way into doing stuff.
Yep. Don't make
So
excuses.
make sure to today write down your just do, something you've been procrastinating that you really want to do that just seems silly or out of reach, and do it.
Yeah, and like she said, gaps in cybersecurity. So kids, think about what your hobby is, what you're really into. Like you're really into gaming. Is somebody hacking this particular game or this particular platform, or are there holes in Unity I can find? That's a very interesting space. And then some video game company is going to hire you to secure their stuff. So the soldering kit.
Yes, and you guys got to do one of those soldering kits today. For example, gaps in the industry. I wanted to teach soldering, but I couldn't find a good beginner soldering kit with all of the special extra things that I wanted. And over here, you can see my friend displaying the kit from today, which is the one on the right here. So I got one of my friends in tech to help me design a kit that's extra thick so it doesn't burn, has extra long pads so that you don't add too much solder. It has a bunch of extra features so you really can't mess anything up. And I loved it so much that after my first kit, which includes a cute little cat character, I made it for my nonprofit, Girls Who Hack. And then soon, once I run out of these, I'll design something even better.
Yep, including a power switch. We didn't think that through. Anyway, yeah. All right, logistical help. Yeah, so adult tasks that seem simple are overwhelming. So my part at Girls Who Hack, and by the way, for anybody who wants to know, this is my boss right here. And with DEF CON, I'll just do a quick side on the boss thing. With DEF CON, several adults volunteers that work for DEF CON are very involved with it, are being asked, does Bianca do everything or is it just her dad? And everybody has the same reaction. They laugh and they say, Bianca is the boss, and there is no doubt about it. So yeah, when she walks into a room, yeah. But what I handle for Girls Who Hack are things like logistics. So I used to tour with bands and all that, and so booking hotel rooms and flights and rental cars, that's all in my blood. So I take care of all that. My wife, super awesome stay-at-home mom, she makes sure we're fed and watered, which is very important because we both have ADHD and we both forget to eat. And somebody gets really hangry when they don't eat. I don't know who that is. And it's also, she alluded to this earlier, it's a family business. So we all work together to keep Girls Who Hack running. I handle logistics and organizing all our cases and all our pelicans and that, and my wife handles handing off conferences.
Like booking hotels, all those things. And the things that you guys can handle logistically is, for example, your kid might come to you, I found this conference, I don't know how to make this happen. And a lot of times us kids will find something, but also know it's not very realistic to go. Maybe it's a far drive, or maybe we don't have quite the money yet for it. Be that person to step in and just make it happen for us. Like, get us through the door. Maybe your kid wants to do something in cybersecurity. Help them create a LinkedIn page. LinkedIn sucks, and it's really hard to make a good LinkedIn page or to write a resume or all these other things that they don't really teach in school. Help us do that. Help us take care of the gross nitty-gritty stuff that you guys are used to, all the paperwork and that kind of stuff. Like when I made a nonprofit, so much paperwork, so confusing. I had Dad help me with that so that we can focus on what we really care about, which is our passion in cybersecurity.
Yeah, just taking that load off the kids and getting them into the conference is going to be the coolest thing. Cash in the airline miles. Or if your kid's interested in cyber, ask around work. Create an internship. Oh, we don't have an internship program? Why not? Give me a good reason why not. You can't? Okay, well, let's make one. Oh, fights. Oh, yeah.
Oof, they happen. And it is usually when I'm hangry. But other times, I think I know what's best. He thinks he knows what's best. So the best way to find a middle ground that we've figured out, and you guys can try out too, it's tried and tested, trust me, is when one of us thinks, oh, that's what's best for you. You know, I know what's best for you. No, I know what's best for me, is to explain our logic behind it. And not only that, share how it aligns with our goals. So if I want to do something and dad's like, no, that's a silly idea. Instead of just saying, you know, I've been in this industry longer than you, I just know that. Explain your logic behind it and share how this is not aligning with your goals because of blank, blank, blank. By actually putting logic behind your words, it shows that emotions aren't what's running the family business, it's logic. And that's a lot stronger.
Yeah, good example, checklists. So again, coming from touring, when you open up a road case, there should be a list in there of what's supposed to be in the road case. Well, the Zennial over here, what are you, Gen Z, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Gen Z over here is like, I have a checklist on my phone. Well, that's great. Your phone's in your pocket and the Pelican case is in front of me and I don't know what's supposed to be in it. That's why we do printed lists. So we had that discussion. It was heated at first and now we have printed lists. All right, public speaking. Okay, first, I love this photo. This is an event in Florida. It's called Cyber Launch. Sorry, Cyber Launch. 900 high school kids all doing a CTF together with no adults. The adults are ejected from the room.
Yeah, not allowed to be there.
And so when she went to this event, it was like walking around with a rock star. Kids were running up to her, even outside of the event, and doing selfies and autographs. It was hilarious. You take it away.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of public speaking. You can go to the next slide for the stats. I've done hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of talks around the world. And when I do mean hundreds upon hundreds, I do mean hundreds upon hundreds. I've done so many talks, I can't even keep track anymore. So I've learned a thing or two, as you can tell, since Dad and I are quite literally improvising this talk as we go. And
improv.
Yeah, he only saw the slides once. I only made the slides and then didn't see them again. So, number one, know the bones of your talk. A lot of the times when people are talking, they will just read the slides or read their notes and it's boring and you want to, you know. Next, that matches up my little point right there, is clickbait works for a reason. If you've ever seen any YouTubers or influencers, they like to be
the like button.
They like to be very expressive and over-exaggerate things and talk with their hands and just be kind of crazy. Like, I'm standing here on stage, and this is not the voice I would use talking one-on-one with any of you. But you're all listening, for the most part. I see you on your phone. I'm just kidding. You're good. But by having some fun with the audience, even when you're talking about a serious topic, for example, I've spoken at KPMG's CISO event. So a bunch
invite only.
So it's C-level executives from everywhere. Like there was one from Verizon, one from HelloFresh, like C-level executives. I acted the same way and I still called them out and I still use the same voice. And why is this important? You're going to talk a lot in your life, whether that be at school, in college, or even at work. Like my dad has to deal with, and I'm sure you guys have to deal with, people at work on Zoom calls that just drone on and are so boring and not getting to the point. So by knowing the bones and being interesting and being a little clickbaity, people will listen to you, you'll get your point across and have that sort of passion in your voice.
Yeah, two fun things. This is in Saudi Arabia, by the way, this Black Hat Saudi Arabia. And for one of my coworkers who talks in circles and says the word like exactly 3.8 times per minute.
He calculated.
I have a clicker and that just keeps me going. So every time he says like, I do a click. It's great.
Yeah.
It's also trained me not to use like so much.
Yeah. Once you sort of know what you're talking about, you can flow without worry. I try not to use too many filler words. I do sometimes because I'm human, but at the end of the day, if you just get to your bones, that's all that matters. Improv will save you. I did theater for years and years. Can you tell? By practicing improv, even if it's just at your home with yourself, you can learn to talk about things on the spot without it being boring. One of my favorite things to do is random lightning talk. Sometimes I'll play this with my friends. I will quite literally say, do a talk about shaving cream. You got 5 minutes, go. And then the friend has to talk about shaving cream for 5 minutes without being boring or repetitive. And by doing that, you sort of practice being able to discuss any topic, share your thoughts and opinions, have a real point without being boring.
Yeah, I cannot. And with the homeschool thing, if you're thinking about homeschooling or whatever, there are homeschool groups out there You need to find a balance. So I'm going to say everybody in this room is probably not from the arts and crafts homeschooling, right? Arts and crafts homeschooling is where you just let the kid go figure it out and you throw some crayons at them. Whereas the way we did it, she actually took online classes and it was guided. But we mixed in with those groups so she could get social interaction. There was some theater. In fact, her friend Tesher here that's where we met. Tesher is doing homeschool theater. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Yes.
This is my favorite thing to talk about. And most important, if you guys are going to take one takeaway, pay attention to this slide, especially you parents. Put your kids and enter your kids into adult spaces that don't have a particular kid track or a particular teen track or an event that's not just for kids and teens. Events like this, like what we're at today, is so important because it allows kids to interact with their peers and make friends and connections. However, where true, real careers are built is in adult spaces. And all too often, kids only enter that space maybe in college or at job fairs, but by directly interacting with people who work in the field now, they can make some pretty crazy connections, find good mentors, and have some crazy opportunities. Even when I was really little, like my dad took me to his work event that Reshma Saujani spoke at. You weren't supposed to bring your kids to that. It was just an event, and he just kind of brought me, and he was
ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah, ask for forgiveness later. Just do it. Yeah, exactly. So for example, I'm a part of the National Cryptologic Foundation, who is running this Cyber Saturday. And as an official member, I get invited to different events, including Cocktails and Code Breakers, which is a meetup between influential people who are part of the National Cryptologic Foundation. And you know who else is a fellow member? Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill. Exactly. And I got to meet him one-on-one, not as a celebrity meeting a fan, even though it's definitely fangirling a little, of course, but as a peer talking to a peer. Since we were all at this event as equals, I got to chit-chat to him. I got to talk to him about his awesome wife, Lisa Mundy. She's super cool. I got to share about Girls Who Hack, and we were just talking like friends. And the reason I had the confidence to do that wasn't necessarily because I had experience in the field, but it's because I got that experience by going to places that weren't meant for me. So by showing up somewhere that isn't necessarily meant for kids, or getting tickets to a conference that isn't for kids, and interacting with adults.
Ooh, look who was in a documentary.
Yeah. So going forward in my timeline, I was doing more talks. I had about like 2 other internships that I had done at this point. And I had done a lot of collaborations and work with different companies, including Cyber Florida. And Cyber Florida was making a documentary about women in tech. And it was called Do We Belong Here? And I became part of that documentary. And one of my classes, my Girls Who Hack classes, was highlighted. So in the Tampa theater, just giant screen, like bigger than a movie theater screen, I was on it and I got to go to this giant opportunity. And I thought back to it, the only reason I was able to do this was because I saw Cyber Florida's work. I reached out to them and I'm like, I want to do something here, find something for me to do. And that's a great way to get opportunities. You don't need to be presented with an opportunity. Just go up to an adult you know and say, give me something to do, and they will find something for you to do. Under pressure. I'm under a lot of pressure. Pressure makes diamonds, or however that quote goes. I personally like a little bit of pressure, and everyone's always under pressure. But how do I deal with that? Well,
wait, I'm going to give the background of this photo first. We just went to this event to go to the event. We were not planning anything. The people who organized the event found out she was going, fabricated an award for her, which was pretty incredible, but then also sprung interviews on her on the spot. And can we interview you? Hell yeah, go.
Yeah. In my lifetime, because of what I do and who I am, I've done podcast interviews, news articles, actual TV interviews with like Vice and other big platforms, everything from CNN, BBC, like I mentioned, The New Yorker, doing other things, like all different things. Even I was interviewed for some like podcasts in China too. I don't know how that happened. I still haven't been able to find it. but I've done a lot of interviews in my lifetime. And in your guys' lifetime, you will be interviewed, whether that's for a job, school, opportunity, internship, whatever it is.
Hopefully not by the cops.
You never know.
Don't do crime.
Ultimately, pressure just means you are doing something worthwhile. So by having that energy and that passion when you are talking about what you care about, rather than worrying so much, am I saying the right thing in the right way? Am I using enough keywords, corporate slang? By focusing on why you care.
Back around to that.
Yeah, and why you do what you do, that will make you stand out when you're doing any kind of interview. Parents and kids, practice interview skills by just asking questions and telling them, pretend I'm an interviewer, answer this question. And maybe ask some random questions too. Like, I know interviewers like to ask things that are not even related to the job. Sort of spring random questions on them in the morning, at night, when they least expect it, so that they'll just be prepared in their brain to mentally lock in and answer. Yeah, after a while, Girls Who Hack did eventually enter the big leagues, I like to call it. We are official partners thanks to Get Cyber Smart, which is a cyber alliance between Girls Who Hack and a bunch of other really big, notorious groups. So for example, WeSys is on there, Cyberjutsu Girls, Girl Scouts.
National Cryptologic
Yeah,
Foundation.
the National Cryptologic Foundation. I'm actually the person who got the National Cryptologic Foundation invited to and on the board of this entire thing. So Girls Who Hack, Girls Who Code is on there, cyber.org, cyber. There's so many big companies, and we're all in an alliance together. And every few months, we have a call together discussing marketing plans, how we're going to help each other, how we're going to collaborate, all these awesome things. I don't really know exactly how I ended up there, but I think Girls Who Code reached out to me because they saw the work that I was doing. And since they run this entire program, they said, you need to be a part of this. And I'm like, I'll do it. And I'm up there with like multi-million-dollar nonprofits and companies. And then my little nonprofit is there too.
Please donate. Please donate to Girls Who Hack. girlswhohack.com/donate. No,
Thank you
no
for
joke. We
listening.
need operating capital. Please help.
But ultimately, like I said earlier, when your mission is full of passions, others like you will build you up. Like all of you guys here, you know that a lot of these volunteers work in cybersecurity or are passionate about cybersecurity. Walk up to one of them and say, who do you know who would want me as an intern? Who do you know who would teach me something? What other events do you volunteer at that I would enjoy? Ask all of these questions, and since they see your passion and have a similar passion, they'll just give you opportunities. That's the plus side of being young.
Plus, the worst thing that'll happen is they can say, I don't know anything or no. And
Yeah.
that doesn't hurt. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, go ask one of the other 300 people who are here.
Yeah, and not only they'll say no, they'll remember you for later or next time. And they might think back and be like, that opportunity wasn't for you, but there's a new opportunity I heard of, and reach back out to you. Like a lot of the times I meet people and they're like, nothing that I do is aligned with you or Girls Who Hack, but they might meet another company and be like, hey, I just found this company or this thing that might want to work with you. Here's the info. So just by putting your name out there and saying, give me something to do, people will give you something to do.
No, this is not packets.
Get it? Like in network packets? No, not funny. Okay. Networking 101. If you couldn't tell, I've gotten pretty good at networking. It's because I like to stick my nose in places that ultimately people say, don't stick your nose in there. I reach out everywhere into everyone, everything from local libraries to multi-millionaires and heads of companies. And I've gotten invited to some pretty cool places. I remember I was doing an event in this awesome building in New York that was like really high up and really fancy. And they were running another event at the same time as a cybersecurity event. And it was like a healthcare cybersecurity event specifically for like healthcare people and like healthcare companies and different hospitals and stuff. And this woman walks up to me and she's like, oh my goodness, are you BiaSciLab? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh, my daughter's a big fan of yours. Can I get a selfie with you? I'm like, sure, we take a selfie. And I'm like, oh, what's your name? And she's like, oh, I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm the official Minister of Health for Canada. And I'm like, so you are. So by just sticking your nose everywhere and being friendly and being happy and, you know, just putting yourself out there, you will meet some pretty crazy people.
Yeah, I got most of my jobs through being friendly. Like my current job, I was doing audiovisual stuff for this other company and we were installing all new AV stuff for this huge corporation. And through talking to the CTO, he suddenly looked at me and went, I think you should work here. And I said, I think I should work here too. And now 9 years later, I'm part of the cybersecurity team at that company.
Yeah. Cybersecurity requires networking. I have had hundreds of kids come up to me in the past from all sorts of backgrounds around the world saying, I can't get a job in cybersecurity. I can't get into a good cybersecurity program. I can't get an internship. And I'm like, have you networked at all? And they're like, what's that? A lot of us who work in tech are introverted. If we had a choice, we would be at our computer 24/7, every hour of every day, hiding around away from like the rest of the world. However, networking is important. And a lot of the times people think networking as some adult thing, something that's stuffy. However, I like to think of networking as a way to just make friends and put yourself out there. This is a cybersecurity networking event. Like I said, talk to the volunteers, or maybe talk to some of these parents. Like, do any of you guys work in cybersecurity or in tech? Okay, see, look, there's adults in here who work in cybersecurity or in tech. Talk to them, ask about their company, ask about their job, ask about the tools they use or what you can learn or what they did. And boom, you just got info and you network. Networking is just a fancy word for talking with a good intent. It's all about being bold. At the end of the day, everyone is human. My favorite ever book to reference is a children's book called Everybody Poops. And I don't know if any of you guys have read it to your kids, or I know it's like a newer book, but it's true. Like, everyone is human. Everyone's gone through stress, trials, tribulations. Every adult in this room, believe it or not, and this is going to be shocking, was once a teenager. Crazy. So by just talking to them on a human level, you can connect with them. And ultimately, closed mouths don't get fed. For example, I was teaching a Girls Who Hack class a while ago, and I asked the room of about maybe almost 50 girls, and I said, I'm going out to lunch, but I'm coming back. Does anyone want or need anything? And silence. And then one of the girls lightly raised her hand and she's like, maybe some candy. And I'm like, sure. So I went out and I got giant tubs of candy salad, which is just mixed candy. I brought it for all the girls and all the girls loved it. They're like, yeah, you brought candy. And I'm like, you just have to ask for things and people will give it to you. To sort of define your personal brand or to help yourself build up, all you have to do is ask some people in your life, your friends, families, teachers, mentors, counselors, whoever it may be, and say, describe me in 3 words. The 3 words I heard the most often were bright, bubbly, and passionate. So as long as I stick to being bright, bubbly, and passionate, I will be fine in life. As we're coming to an end, I'm going to talk about my 3rd ever internship, and that is my IBM X-Force Red, very elite exclusive internship. Thousands of people applied, only 11 were accepted. I was the youngest in the class, and the oldest ones in the class were like 32, and most of them were in their 20s. These were people with Ivy League educations. There was one from MIT, one from Yale, one from Harvard, like very, very high up people. And I was nervous. And it was not a great experience. Everyone was excluding me. And I do strongly believe that it was because I was the youngest and one of the only girls. I wasn't invited to a lot of the different group events. Like, let's say they all went to mini golf together. My manager kept forgetting to invite me to these things. And so did my fellow, like, interns and stuff. I like to think I'm a pretty nice and friendly person, but of course I did some reflecting on like, what could I have done wrong? But then I didn't see anything. So I went to my dad.
Yeah, and we saw a whole stack of HR violations here. So we learned how to escalate to HR, and it was very, very interesting. And the entire IBM X-Force Red internship took a year off to rebuild itself. So, yeah.
It was flagged for a lot of reasons. And not only did I go to my manager, because my managers did nothing since they were part of the problem, I didn't go to my manager's manager or my manager's manager's manager. I went all the way up practically, and I said, these are some problems. And he's like, that shouldn't be happening. And I'm like, no, it shouldn't. So if you think you're the problem, reflect first, realize you're probably not, go to your parents, and they will set things straight. Also, one last point on that for my girls in the room. Not every girl is a girl's girl. Not every woman is a woman's woman. especially in tech, there's this queen bee syndrome. And what happens is that most companies won't hire a lot of women. They will always prefer a guy, even if the guy has the same exact credentials or less credentials than you. And most women and girls know that. They know they're not as likely to be hired. So it becomes a competition between girls, like who's going to get this position. It was very much like that in my internship. So my advice to sort of combat that is not only point it out, but just be supportive. Be supportive to your fellow girls and build yourselves up. Because as long as we try to like make things more even and balanced, then by supporting each other, we can try to break that stigma. After a while, I started Spawn Camp, which is my gender-neutral paid branch of Girls Who Hack. I bring Spawn Camp to different conferences because I noticed cybersecurity conferences don't always have a youth initiative. So here, I have a package ready to go, youth initiative. Bring it to that conference and they get to experience it, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, so parents, if you guys are looking for a little cybersecurity day camp, hit us up. We got cards. Yes, DC
Connection, the official DEF CON youth track, like you mentioned earlier, over 300 kids last year, and that was our second year. The way that started is before COVID, for a few reasons, the official DEF CON youth track just died out. COVID happened, then everything came back in person. And I went up to Jeff Moss, that's him. He runs DEF CON as well as Black Hat. He is a very big, important, rich guy. I went straight up to him, gave him a little fist bump, and I said, listen, Jeff, I want to start a youth track here at DEF CON. You know my credentials, you know my passion, can I do it? He said, sure, and that was just at a party. In less than 5 minutes, I got all of this. And now I get this huge budget and a team of, I think, 12 adults technically underneath me that I manage to create this content. And it's been pretty insane. Not only do we see that many kids, but we collaborate with villages all around the conference in order to create a giant CTF that's integrated with 13 other villages. It's insane. My lessons there are that age doesn't define skill or leadership ability. I have met many adults who are managers, leaders, heads of companies and things who suck at their job. They're really not good leaders and they're not taking time to be better reflect. Like, you know what I'm talking about. And I have met so many other youth who are helping to run things or volunteer at things who are so much better. So don't be intimidated or think, oh, I'm younger. These are adults. I could never like run that thing, because I do. And I love my team. And my team is experienced adults in the field who have done this for some of them more years than me. But by working together, we create these amazing opportunities for youth. To wrap things up, I also became the newest member of the Cult of the Dead Cow. And this is not a marketing scheme or an actual cult, so relax. The Cult of the Dead Cow, or the CDC, is one of the oldest and most iconic hacking groups. It consists of some of the most OG hackers to have ever existed. That is like the first hackers ever banding together. This photo is not all of us. Some of these people were just attending the party since this was a party, but it's more so just like this little front row here. And they inducted me as the youngest and newest member because they've seen my influence in this field, and they're like, we're getting old, you know, the gray hair's coming in, we're gonna die soon, time for the youth to come in. And I'm the newest member, which is really cool. And my dad actually has known of the CDC since he was younger and before I was born. So dad's gonna talk about the adult jealousy that might happen.
Yeah, if your kids become successful, awesome. Let them be successful. You know, my daughter's in CDC and it's an awesome flex, and I'm not jealous at all, seriously. And I think it's really cool that this group of the elite most hackers in the world picked her to help carry the torch. And, you know, there's some key people here, like this woman right here is the head of cybersecurity for Google. And her and Bia are like besties, and she's changed her hacker handle to the Google lady, because that's what Bia used to call her when she was younger.
Yeah, so I thought that was really fun. And when it comes to jealousy, and this is one thing I never understood, and I'm not accusing any of you guys of this, but you just have to be wary of it and also notice it maybe in your fellow adults and adult friends, is that a lot of the times you might feel some resentment towards your kids because you'll be like, I went through struggles you don't have to go through. I had to deal with things you didn't have to deal with. My parents were 10 times more terrible than you guys, than me to like you guys. I went through all of these bad things. I didn't have the technology you have today. I didn't have a good education like you. And you might feel resentment because you think to yourself, why didn't I get that? That's not fair. And it's not. But that's also the point. The point is for the next generation to be better prepared, have more resources. You're supposed to pour in, not all of you, because all of you, you're going to burn out, but you're supposed to pour most of you into your kids because they're supposed to do way better than you in life. And a lot of times parents, from what I've seen, will want to sort of create this fake bad, hard situation that they go through. So for example, kicking your kids out the second they turn 18 or making them pay for everything on their own. But they're already going to deal with struggles. Why add on to that to try to build character? They'll build character on their own. And the best way for them to build character isn't by you giving them more chores. It's by you bringing them to events that's adults only, or giving them resources to learn more things and challenge themselves at internships. That will actually grow them more than go sweep the yard or something like that.
You got to pay rent now and help out around the house. Yeah, okay, help out around the house. But also, if you support your kids, then they can focus on becoming better. Bia doesn't have to pay rent. She lives at home.
Thanks,
and we don't care. You know?
Thank you.
So,
I mean, I still keep my room clean, the bathroom clean, and all that. But
yep, she cleans better than anybody. But that's all we got. So if you got more questions or anything, let us know.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope this conversation sparked your curiosity and got you excited about the world of cybersecurity. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with fellow cyber enthusiasts. Have a question or a topic you'd love us to explore? Connect with us on CyberChat's podcast page and join the conversation. Until next time, stay curious and keep the cyber chats going.